Okay, we are live. Welcome to Three Blondes, One Battle. How are you, Bobby?
Well, I'm getting there. I'm getting better.
Dude, so let's talk about, I titled this, Is it MS or No?
Yeah.
So let's how about you just tell our listeners what has been going on with you in the last 2 weeks? It's been 2 weeks now, right?
Yeah. So it started 2 weeks ago on Sunday. So, yeah, 2 weeks now. So I shared in a previous episode of ours of how this season of sickness has been really crazy for me. It's never happened. I've never been this sick ever. I've been on Ocrevus for 4 years now. So I've never changed anything, but I truly feel because we had so much going on all across the states that it was just inevitable, right? So anywho, last Sunday, the previous Sunday, I started in my right side. So my right side, I don't have MS symptoms. It's all my left side of my face. So I started to experience really bad pain on my right side, like by my ear area, but I was getting like electrical, like pulses through my face and like numbness and tingling. And I was getting more headaches. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, okay, I don't have a fever. I don't have a cough, like no sinus issues. And I'm like, I'm not sick because, mind you, I had a really bad ear infection starting the end of January. And all of February, I was going back and forth with doctors with my ears, and it took over 2 rounds of antibiotics and steroids. But even then, it wasn't getting like better during that time. It was like on day 12 after I got done taking everything, it got better. So it's living with MS, right? It's weird. Our bodies do weird things. So I didn't think anything of it. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, Tuesday rolls around and I'm just not getting better. And I'm getting a little bit nervous because I'm the person who does not instantly think my MS. Okay. I don't think it. 14 years, I don't think my MS. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, Bobby, we're going to be good about this. Let's call the neurologist and let him know what's going on. So I did, and instantly he's like, you need to get to the ER. And I'm like, doc, I can't do that. I have my kids, my husband's out of town. So he's like, okay. Well, my husband, he was on his way home and he's like, tomorrow we have an MRI scheduled for you. So Wednesday. Okay. I'm like, oh, wow, that's fast. So go to the MRI. And of course, you have to wait. Well, Thursday I get the results. Okay. And my doctor's like, okay, your MS is stable, but they found a brain aneurysm. And I'm like, what? In my mind, I'm like, what the heck is that? Like I did when I was diagnosed with MS. What is MS? So he's like, I have you have a consult with the neurosurgeon. And I'm like, what is going on here? And I'm just getting worse, like more like intense. And so Friday morning, I'm like, I can't take this anymore. So we went straight to the ER. Okay. And they put me through CT scan because they're like, we need to see in this area what's going on because by looking at your report, hearing from your doctor, like your MS is stable. I'm like, cool. So do the CT and comes back and they're like, we just see a lot going on in your ear, like your mastoid area. So we're going to refer you to an ENT. And I'm like, okay, but like, why is this happening? Is it because my ear, like I'm not even sick? And that was the one thing they were like, it's just weird because you have no infection. And at first they thought I had an infection because how my left ear was looking, which was weird because my left ear was just fine.
Fine. Yeah.
And so they're like, well, we're just going to give you antibiotics just to be safe because we can't see anything. Because they did my blood in what's the I can't remember what it's called, but they can kind of see that you have an infection going on, like your body's fighting off something. So my levels were a
Oh,
little
the
bit,
white blood cells?
yeah. So my levels were a little bit elevated, so they could see my body was combating something. So
Mm.
that's why they did the antibiotics. Okay.
Mhm.
And we were talking, and the doctor was like, well, the thing is, you had your MRI on Wednesday and you're feeling worse today. It could be possible it is your MS, but it just wasn't showing on Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't even care. I just want to know what is going on with me, because I know something just isn't right. I don't know what it is.
Being your MS, are they talking about showing an active lesion?
Yeah,
Oh,
so they're trying to, yeah. So they're like, we're gonna admit you. So I stayed in the hospital because I wasn't able to get in to the MRI machine until like 11:30 at night.
mm.
So I was like, I'm already here. Everything was covered. The VA was great. And so wake up the next morning and they're like, you you have a follow, you have a to call on Monday to the ENT because they were closed, and to get an appointment scheduled. And in my mind, I'm looking at the nurse and I'm like, there's literally no like doctor, like no one like on call, like anything. And she's like, I'm sorry. I was in every hospital runs differently how they
Mhm.
do stuff, you know?
Yeah.
So Monday comes around and they're like, we'll get you in on Tuesday. So the next day. Cool. Awesome. So I go in and they were amazing. Absolutely amazing. I was very impressed with their office, impressed with their PA, impressed with the surgeon. I go in and they're like looking in my ears and they're like, well, you have no infection, but I can see like you have a lot of inflammation going on. And they're like, you haven't had a fever, nothing. And I'm like, no. Well, he's like, well, they have like a protocol like with ears. And so the surgeon, he's like, I'm going to go get the surgeon just to have him have a look, because the PA was like, usually we have to wait 3 months in order to like really do anything with the ears, because we don't want to do something to the ears that we don't have to do, that we can do some other things. So I have Flonase and things like that. So the surgeon comes in and he's like, no, he's like, can you come in tomorrow? We're gonna put tubes in your ears. And so I'm looking at him like, I'm 34 and I'm getting tubes in my ears. And he's like, you've never had ear issues? And I'm like, no. Well, long story short, coming down to this, I get my tubes in, and I'm thinking, because when I got sick in November with that really bad respiratory infection, and the
Yeah.
thing with MS, well, not MS, being on Ocrevus, it increases your chances of infections, especially respiratory, right? Well,
Yeah.
he's thinking it started clear then, because when he got into my eardrum, he was like, and his voice was like, whoa. And then Logan was in the room with me, and he's like, what's going on? And he's like, well, he's like, I don't believe you've been dealing with this for 2 months. And he's like, you have a road ahead of you on getting your ears back, because I can barely, like, it still feels like I have ear protection on and I can't hear very well, and they're ringing in the ears. I have tinnitus anyways, but it went away for a day and it's come back with a vengeance. And so I go back to the ENT soon. So I talked to my neurologist and he's like, the funny thing about like MS, and he's like, it can feel like it is an MS attack. Like when you sent me that information, what you were feeling, instantly I thought, we need to see what's going on in your brain,
Mhm.
because I've never had such intense feeling. It reminded me of my very first attack. So that's why I was like second
You
guessing.
mean like the nerve pain?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he's like, that's the hard thing about MS, when something is going on. Yeah, in some way your MS is gonna like have those pseudo flares kind of arise. And he's like, that's the hard thing about MS, is deciphering what is what. And
Yeah.
he's like, yeah, we thought it was your MS. because we admitted you. We wanted to double make sure because, you know, you've lived with MS for so long. Well, my worst relapse was in 2018. And he's like, you know, you're just on that time period of it was a possibility. It happened.
Mhm.
And so it was really frustrating in my mind because I was like, man, I for the first time ever, I took action in like doing something and it didn't pan out. It was my MS, but my MS is contributing to the process of it prolonging and healing because
Mhm.
my nerves are so like tweaking out, you know? So I
So
went,
what does your ear look like when he said he went in there and it was like it's been months? Like what did it look like in there?
well, all I could feel when he sliced my eardrum, just fluid just pouring down. But the thing was, it was super thick. Like it just felt like slime, like goop, like rolling down. And he's like, you don't see this in an ear unless it's been in there for months. And he's like, and the thing is, you don't have an infection going on. He's
Yeah.
like, this is just stuff your body has created, which is completely natural, but your ears are just holding on to everything. It's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. And he's like, it's just weird because usually you would feel it in your sinus cavities because your sinus connected to your ears. But he's like, there's like nothing whatsoever. So um I got to talk to him a little bit more and he's like, I in a way he kind of put it, I'm just one of those strange fluke weird scenarios that this happens to. And they're a little bit concerned with my hearing just because it's been so long that I've been having hearing issues. And so they're hoping the drainage, because I don't go back until the 17th of April, so about 3 weeks. They're hoping that I get enough drainage, because if not, he was kind of talking about there's more steps after that they'll take to get in and really flush things out.
Mhm.
But he was a little bit optimistic, and I think it was because I was looking at him like, what do you mean I'm like one of that 1% people that just doesn't show these signs and it just poof, it like come full blown and
Mhm.
like, you know, it happens. But the one thing that's going to take some time because you deal with MS and you're going to have certain symptoms that's going to make it feel like it's your MS, but it's something completely different. And so that same day I got my tubes put in my ears, I had my appointment with the neurosurgeon, and which was really, really great. And I was kind of bummed in a way because when they don't use MRIs to really look at the blood vessels, right? They use CTs
Mhm.
and they were able to see it on the MRI. So when I got my CT done, they were only focused on this side of my head
Mhm.
because where my brain aneurysm is, it's at the back of the skull in the internal carotid artery. So the blood vessel that gives oxygen to the brain. Um, and so they're like, we can see it. It's small enough. So I'm pretty much in this observation time. So every 6 months, I have to go and do CT, follow up with the doctor, and pretty much being proactive, you know, watching. But I go back in 5.5 months to do another CT round. And then that's when they'll be able to really engage what my blood vessels are doing and kind of its exact location. But they can't tell if it's on like the right side or the left side where it is, but it's, of course, I'm in one of those rare cases that it's a rare place to get a brain aneurysm. So, and it's one of the more riskier procedures to have like a brain surgery because of that carotid, it's the main carotid artery. So they're very hesitant on doing things. And we live in a day and age where, you know, modern medicine continues to evolve, and so they have two other procedures before like an open brain surgery. So which is nice if it
I'd be
does.
like, I want Ben Carson. Unless you're Ben Carson, you're not working on my brain.
You know what's crazy? In Tallahassee, I'm like, I got lucky with neurologists. So the neurosurgeon area is one of the top, pretty much in the country area. And my surgeon specializes in brain aneurysm, and he's like world renowned, like wrote articles.
Whoa.
And he did the biggest study on non-ruptured aneurysm.
Shut up.
So cool. So cool. And his PA, she was like, you know how neurologists are. They're just a special type of people, you know.
Yeah.
But they
Yeah.
were great. They were really great. So pretty much with brain aneurysms, like it's always like you don't know, but they kind of know based on studies that kind of the percentage of it bigger, because mine's only 3.55 oh my gosh,
Millimeters.
yeah. And so, which is small, which is great. And so I'm pretty much getting closer to that borderline of they call it the gray area. Like it can happen, it can't happen. And so that's when they just become a little bit more proactive with watching. So I asked him, like, what are things that I can pay attention to? Because I was like, I deal with migraines anyways. Like, how can I decipher it? And
Would that have to do with something on your carotid artery? Would that migraines have? Is that connected at all?
well, I don't know. The one thing I
Mm.
I learned from them is it can be genetics, but I don't know anybody in my family that has this.
Mhm.
But it's basically just a weakening in the artery wall.
Mhm.
And that's how that bubble starts to grow. And so it can get to a point where it just bursts. So then that's when you're higher risk of stroke. So usually people who come in and have a stroke, majority of the time it's because of a brain aneurysm.
So are you taking like nanokinase, or are you taking like a baby aspirin, or are they having you do anything like that at this point?
Nope, not at this point. Basically, they just looked at me and they're like, keep staying healthy, don't smoke, like keep your exercise not heavily, like so I can't do like strenuous things.
Mhm.
Um and they're like, you just need to keep taking care of yourself. Like make sure your weight is at a healthy area, make sure you're eating like good foods, stress management. And I started giggling and I was like, I'm already on top of that because MS definitely.
Yeah, it forces you to. Well, the thing is, like, if you think about it, it's your blood, right? So
Yeah,
it's like the arteries, it has to do with your blood. And so if you have high blood pressure, like clearly you don't want it to get higher. You don't want to, you just want to be even keel. And so that's why I kind of wonder why they don't have you at least a baby aspirin, or like instead of a baby aspirin, most people take nanokinase, but that's like the more natural
and
form.
I
But
think it was like my levels because I've lost 22 pounds.
yeah.
So my like cholesterol's like in incredible numbers I've never seen before.
Mhm.
My blood pressure is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Way better even though before it was in a good range, but I'm in
Yeah.
like a such better range.
Yeah.
And you know what the crazy thing is too, because when I was in high school and my first 2 years in the military, I had extremely high cholesterol.
Yeah. I'm
It's not
sure I did too at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Um,
anyway, so I'm pretty much in this like limbo area with my whole like brain aneurysm. And that's the last thing that you kind of expect, right? You're going in, oh, it's probably like
no.
MS attack. I'm going to get, the steroids. Like I'm going to be on my,
Right. You thought, okay, this is going to be a 3-day stint of Medrol, and then I'm good. Right. Like it'll get rid of the like pain going down my
yep,
weird like ear area.
yep.
So interesting. So do you feel like, because I feel like you're a lot like me in the sense of our body does not like, you've been on so many MS meds and your body will tell you if your body is done with it. Like we've talked about this in previous episodes, but I think the difference between you and I is like maybe you're less fearful than me, or maybe like, whereas when I, think about taking things, my body hates medicine. Like it hates it. So in my mind, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to ever take MS meds because my body does not like medication. Whereas you've taken MS meds the whole time, but you just keep switching to different medications. Do you think this is like it for you? Like you're like, okay, if it's going to cause my infections to hang around longer, or if it's not going to heal me, like,
well, and that's the thing I was talking with my neurologist about. So there was about a 6-year period where I didn't take MS drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of to the point because nothing was helping and my MS was getting worse. And that's when I went to that naturopathic doctor and got to really learn more about like the gut and taking care
while you were getting worse, or no, while you were not on any meds, you mean?
Yeah, while I wasn't on any meds.
So you were having like more attacks every year? Is that what was happening?
Yeah. So what happened was I was on MS drugs, the 3, and I kept getting new lesions, and my lesions were very active.
Okay.
And so it got to the point I was just so frustrated because I just felt like I wasn't really heard with the neurologist that I was seeing. Mm-hmm. And so I went off of it. And during that time where I lived was a new doctor who came from Chicago, very world-renowned naturopathic doctor, and I went to him. Mm-hmm. So when I went to him, that's when I learned a lot about my body, like versus guessing what was going on. And so that's when I started to really take care of myself from a nutritional standpoint. When I started moving more, because at that time I was so fearful of any movement.
Oh yeah.
Remember? So I that idea, I'm going to make my MS worse.
Yeah.
So that's when everything started to shift for me, and things were great. Like I got in incredible shape. Like I was doing so good. And that's when I had my worst attack besides my first attack. And that one really scared me because I couldn't walk and I was in so much pain. And then that's why I have so much more horrific numbness and tingling because of that attack.
So, okay, so you're like putting it all together and you're like, because I wasn't on drugs, like this probably wouldn't have happened. The attack would have been less severe.
Yeah.
And so now you're like, no way will I not be on drugs. So what are you going to do?
Not necessarily. I think the biggest thing for me, like I've been on Ocrevus for 4 years. Mm-hmm. I honestly don't know. I don't see myself on Ocrevus forever. I don't, just because it's such a hardcore drug. Mm-hmm. It's kind of, I feel like my time soon is going to be done with it in a way, just because everything that I'm dealing with, like infections, and it's very hard to like overcome that just because the process is so much longer. So honestly, like I feel like I'm at the point that I really don't know. Like, and my doctor's really great about it too, which is really nice because I can really voice, like, I understand I've been on this great path, but since November, like, I can't keep like these infections and my hearing now, like
and honestly, now that you have tubes, like, guess what the number one thing is that parents complain about their kids when they get tubes?
What?
They get infected and they have to get them out and they get new tubes put in. So that the infection in the tubes are like what parents like constantly have to replace and get new surgeries and so if you're already at a negative, right? Like your body already doesn't do well with infections, then I mean, if I were you, I'd be done. I'd be like, I'm done with Ocrevus. Like maybe it caused it, but I do know like the side effects with the infection rates.
And that's the thing, like, it's been doing great, like, for my MS. Like, this is the longest
That you
period that
haven't had an
I've had
MS attack.
any
Yeah,
attack, any new activation, like,
yeah,
any, like, activation, which is a complete miracle for me.
yeah.
With, like, there's always a con to things too.
It's
And I,
always the side effects, dude. I mean,
you know,
that's like what you have to weigh is it's like it's great, it's warding off those new attacks, but
yeah,
then is it worth the side effects? And I think like it obviously it was until
well, yeah. And that's, I feel like I had a really good streak, like 4 years. Like,
yeah, that is pretty
oh,
good for not having another attack. Yeah.
and so, like,
Yeah.
I just, like, the one thing just makes me, I wouldn't say nervous, more like hyper aware, is my ears at
Yeah.
this point, and knowing the things that happen with ears.
Yeah.
Like, if my ears don't clear up, I'm
Mhm.
gonna more than likely have to go in,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have to. I can't remember what it's called, but basically, because my mastoids are my problem, so my bone,
Yeah.
and to the point when that happens, like, it can eat your bone.
Yeah.
The mastoids, it looks like honeycombs back here. And so I do have a really great surgeon, and
Yeah.
he's really great, and he definitely knows, like, there's no, like, where are we in April now?
Yeah, April 1st, dude. It's April Fool's Day, which by the way, I have an appointment at the VA with my neurologist in 40 minutes, so I should probably
Okay.
go.
All right. Yes. We will
But
we will follow up more, because my story, it's not done with,
it's to be
everything.
continued.
It to
But
be continued.
but follow her on Instagram because I feel like you do a good job at letting people in on what's going on. So what's your handle again on Instagram?
So it's Bobie, Bobie underscore Linan, Linnan.
Awesome. All right. Well, sorry to have to run, but like
Good, good.
I missed it last time I was an hour late. So
Oh,
I
don't
can't play
do
this
that.
out. All right. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.